Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. Listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Phil Me in Phil.
How we doing, guys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we turn up the temperature as we cover our top 5 favorite hot movies.
Yeah, man, it's getting hot out there, isn't it?
For beginning of June, extremely hot.
Yeah, and it's not just here in Chicago. It's kind of like a national heat wave going on.
We were off last week, and I was out in Las Vegas, and you expect Las Vegas to be, 100, 104. It's hot during the day, but it's a dry heat. But then to come back to Chicago and have it basically be the same temperature is ridiculous already.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, a lot of people enjoy it. I'm a winter type. I like the cold and ice.
Yeah, I like fall.
Fall's good.
So when we were saying hot movies, Jawheads, we were talking about movies about hot temperature. That's where we were going with this.
Right. But, there's always room to interpret it, Rye.
Yeah, always. And when we're covering a list like this, Matt, we got to have a great guest.
Yes. Jack C. Newell. He is a director, writer, Renaissance man. He will be joining us for, I believe, his 4th time. We'll have to throw that in an early fish tank and see what Phil, maybe he can correct me. But Jack's been on before. Happy to have him back.
Yep. He's got a new movie, Monuments, which is excellent. I just got done watching it, Matt, so I can't wait to talk to Jack about that.
Sweet.
Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yes, it is a brand new month. It is June. That means we have a brand new theme. We have to say goodbye to Angelina, but we will be announcing who our newest focal point for this month will be very shortly.
And we have 2 reviews for you, Jawheads. We have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and In the Heights.
Plus, Matt, it's summer, as we're talking about it. A lot of people go out and make road trips. Plus, Jack's movie is about a road trip. So I figured good time for you to take Jack on in road trip movie trivia.
All right. This might even be a topic I know a little about. We'll see.
Usually when you say that,
I lose, yeah.
Yeah, you get buried.
Well, usually I get buried, so 50-50.
All right. As Phil mentioned, it is June. We have a brand new person to celebrate. And it was a tough one to pick because we try to get either an actor or director who has a movie coming out this month. So don't give me too much flack, Matt.
Yeah, this was an executive decision by Ryan, Jawheads. Did not consult me at all.
Who did we land on?
We chose Ryan Reynolds. And listen, don't get me wrong. I like Ryan Reynolds just fine. I think he's funny and the Deadpool movies are tip top, but we'll see. Whole month of celebrating Ryan Reynolds. So you got that to look forward to.
His new movie, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, is coming out in June. So somehow we landed on that Ryan Reynolds.
Sequel. Yeah.
So we kicked the jaw off with a Ryan Reynolds fact.
Yes, Ryan Reynolds is a huge Green Bay Packers fan.
Oh, God.
Very shocking.
Like him less.
So what's even stranger is that he's not he wasn't born in Wisconsin. He doesn't have a real reason to be a Packers fan.
I think he's Canadian.
He went out of his way to choose it. He is Canadian. He grew up in Vancouver, and he could have supported any team in the NFL. The closest one to him was the Seattle Seahawks. And this is a quote. He decided to root for a team with rich history and recent success, and out of his own volition, chose to be a Packers fan.
Well, this isn't getting off to a good start then. Ryan Reynolds is a Packers fan? This is terrible.
Yeah.
Well, we got Josh Fields. Oh, man. I don't like it.
Yeah. Me neither. Cheeseheads. Yeah.
There's no way our guest is a Green Bay Packers fan. There's just no way.
I agree.
He has been on Cinemajaw, we believe, 4 times. We are fact checking that. His new movie is out. It is called Monuments. Jack C. Newell, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Excited to be back.
This is the first time we're doing a Zoom one with you. Usually we're in studio.
I know. The first time we did it was when you guys were on Division.
Yeah. You're one of the few guests, I believe, who has been at just about every location we've recorded at, including the Death Star. We actually recorded an episode with you.
That's right.
On the Death Star, which was pretty special.
A lot of stormtroopers, a lot of droids. We were able to find a quiet room where the door didn't hit our head when we were going in and out.
So, Jack, the pandemic affected everybody in strange ways. How did you go through the pandemic? Were you still trying to shoot film during that time?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like, man, I learned a lot about myself during pandemic. And I don't know if that's true for you guys, but it felt like I did learn that I feel like it's like a compulsion to keep making stuff because I was pretty busy. Right when it happened, I ended up deciding, I was like, what's the thing you can do over Zoom? And I was like, we could do a Zoom COVID musical. So Javier, who's in Monuments, who also was I was emailing you guys about this, but Javier Munoz was in Monuments as Howell. And then he was in the original off-Broadway cast of In the Heights, and he's got a small cameo in the film In the Heights. He's a Broadway star, obviously, because he was Hamilton. And we collaborated on some like musical stuff during COVID, which was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And then I did a ton of editing. So I think since I've been on the show 4 times and I've been working on the Haiti documentary for 10 years, I've talked about it every single time.
Yes.
So the advantage of COVID was I was able to spend a lot of time, and now that film is almost done. I'll be done with it this month, I think. So that was good. So that was a silver lining of the pandemic.
That's not an uncommon story. Like, we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of documentarians, and sometimes a film will take 10 years for a documentary film, you know?
Oh yeah. It's not that rare, actually. Yeah, for sure. So I don't feel, it doesn't make it any easier and it doesn't make it any better. You know, it just takes forever to make these movies. I mean, Monuments took 5 years probably. I mean, movies just take a long time to make, from like, if it's a scripted film, from the minute you write the script to when it's out, like in theaters, it takes a very, very long time. There's of course exceptions, but most films just take a long time. So you're just with these projects for so long.
And the movie you are here to talk about this appearance is Monuments, which is out. I believe it's out on digital and in theaters, correct?
So what we're doing right now is a straight theatrical run. And so we're in 7 or 8 theaters in person for the ones that are open. And then we're in like a lot more, significantly more, like 30 or 40 other theaters. But they're doing this virtual screening room thing, which in practice is basically a virtual, what you were saying, but you have to go to their website and you then have to watch it through their portal. Okay. So it's not technically VOD, quote unquote, is what it's called. So it's just a theatrical or virtual screening room. And we're doing that for 2 months. And then in August and September, we will do a VOD release. So it'll be available on, iTunes and Amazon and maybe one of the streamers. We're in the process of pitching it out right now.
Well, it was excellent. I watched it today before we're hitting record on this podcast. And the sales pitch here, Jack wrote and directed this film. The sales pitch, if I'm giving the elevator pitch, I should say, is that a guy who has been separated from his wife, they get back together. And right after that happens, she dies in a car accident. And you think this sounds maybe sad or tragic. Not with Jack's twisted writing. This is a dark comedy. And what ensues then is a cross-country road trip where he is running away from her family with her ashes because he believes her last wish is to spread her ashes in Chicago at the museum, the Field Museum. Where'd you come up with this idea, Jack? Yeah,
so to answer the question honestly, it requires me to go to bring the party down a little bit. So just to give you that as prologue. But when I was in high school and college, my mom and my brother passed away in short succession. And obviously awful, didn't deal with it well as an 18, 19-year-old. It's the defining moment of my life, probably, I would say, or defining moments of my life. So then fast forward and I'm getting newly married and I'm making films, and my mother-in-law, Rebecca's mom, is a writer, and she's like, knows I'm making films. And she's like, I wrote this story. Would you want to read it? And her short story was about a couple who, and it's a very simple short story, 5 pages maybe. It's just sort of almost like a sketch of a story. And it's the story about, you know, 2 people at dinner, they're having a conversation with some friends. It's like, if you died, where would you want to be? It's like, she's like, I'd want to be scattered where we're happiest. It's a museum. And then he breaks in the museum. And I read it. And when I read it, it hit me. I was like, wow, this isn't exactly happened to me. Like I haven't lost my wife, but the story of this person losing this person, and then how he grapples to deal with it. It felt like I had a plot there that I could then take and use as a way for me to explore these things of grief and loss and saying goodbye and moving on. And, you know, you mentioned it's like a dark comedy, and that is true. I think the film it's sad and it's happy and it's funny and it's silly and it's romantic and it's slapstick and it's suspenseful. I mean, there's all these different things. And that was sort of my experience in dealing with grief, I guess, was that it's not linear and it's sort of a wild ride, and you find yourself in these situations. And this is true for anyone, whether you've lost someone in this way, like they've died, or a breakup, or even through COVID of just like who you used to be and who we used to be. You find yourself in these absurd moments. So just trying to explore all of those things in this film.
The cast of characters in the movie really bring it to life. And I love that it's all tied in. So for instance, the cop in the beginning who is actually, has to chase after this guy for a little while is actually the brother of the wife who passed away. Everybody's sort of tied together. How was the casting, and how'd you go about getting your leads?
Yeah. So, I said that the film is, Ted loses Laura, and the whole movie is him just encountering different people who represent different ways that you can, or you should, or you could deal with grief. So the family, her family it's not necessarily religious or spiritual, but they have traditions and a ritual. So that's like, this is the way in which you are supposed to say goodbye to someone. And that, they go to the well and they have this sort of ceremony. Amber, who he runs into, is sort of caught in the moment when her lover, her husband, whoever that person is to her, died. She never wants to let go. The sirens are like, nothing matters. That Joel Murray at the Film Museum is like, don't talk about it. So the idea is that like Ted has lost someone, and now he's just going through all of these different people who are putting onto him how to deal with loss and grief and all that. And so, yes, it ends up creating this like huge cast of characters where Ted is like the one who goes through it all. And so part of it was just finding ways to bring out those characters into his interactions. And then, Ted is David Sullivan, Laura is Marguerite Moreau, and Howell is Javier Munoz. And those, they aren't local. We got those, we had a casting director, and you just start the conversation. The way that casting works for films, and not everyone knows this, but the first conversation in casting for films is, are you available? And so you could want Ryan Reynolds in your film, for example, but if he's not available, then Ryan Reynolds is not going to be in your movie. It's like the simple first question is like, are you available? So it starts there, and then you start getting interest, and then it becomes this like conversation. For everyone else, it was Chicago locals. And I'd worked with probably half before, Dave Pasquazi, Joel Murray, Keith Kupfer. I'd worked with a bunch before, and then the rest were just amazing local folks.
So this one's a specific scene question I have for you, and this is the one I was thinking of right before we hit record. We're going to be reviewing In the Heights, which has a big dance sequence in the film. And so does your movie. I mean, it's a pretty good sized dance sequence, and it was shot and edited fantastically to even give it a larger scope than it really is. Was that the first dance sequence you tackled, and was it difficult as a director?
Yeah, it was my first dance sequence. I love musicals, and actually since then I've been able to do a couple more dance things. I think they're just great. And yeah, it was hard. I mean, the funny thing is that, just to give a little like behind the scenes, we actually had the whole movie cast, and we had already begun filming, but we had not found Amber. And that's the woman that he dances with at the bar. And we just couldn't find the right actor for that role. And Brittany, our casting director, knew Shinori, and Shinori's in New York actually, because they like went to school together. They just knew each other. And she was like, she's like, I don't know. Like, I never like to necessarily push my friends, but like, this is Shinori. And like, she had a real simple reel because she had just graduated from acting school, not so long before, but had done more theater in New York. And it's like, she went to school, she was a dance major, she had all these different things. And I saw her and I was like, oh my God. So we flew her out and like, she came in, and the hardest part was that her and David basically rehearsed the dance like that day. And then they danced it. So, and David is amazing. I mean, the thing about David in this movie, he has to do so many different things. He's funny and serious and romantic, and he does action scenes, and he does it all of his own stunts and all that other stuff. But he like nailed the dance sequence. So yeah, no, it was a blast. I mean, I loved it.
And finally, I got to ask about the music, because it has a great score. As soon as you put it on, it just gives you energy to the movie. So how'd you go about scoring the movie, and who scored it?
So I think we talked when I did 42 Grams. I think that was one of the times I was on the show. And so the guy who did the music for 42 Grams, his name is Nick, but he goes by Takanobu. It's his like his moniker.
Of course.
His nom de plume.
His nom de plume. And we did 42 Grams, and his music is amazing in it, and loved it. And so when I was getting on to do Monuments and music, and we were shooting it and all that, I was like, hey, Nick, you want to try again? You know, this is, 42 Grams was very intimate. You know, it's basically two people in a room, really, for the most of the movie. So I was like, but this is a huge cross-country road trip. You know, I think we're borrowing a lot from films from the 60s and 70s and 30s and 40s. And so a lot of the way that they did it wasn't visual effects or big explosions. It was through cinematography and through big soundscapes. And so when Nick and I started talking about it, I was like, I want a really, really big sound. But normally Takanobu, it's like him and his cello. And I was like, what do you think? Can you do this? And he was like, I would love to do this. And I think I could do it. And so we just sort of went from there, and then pulled a lot from lots of different films. Really, we just started the conversation, of like that. And that's when we make movies. That's a lot of just pulling from different, like, what do you want this to look like or feel like or sound like, and take it from there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the tone of the film, it was perfect it's my kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I was going to laugh as much as I did. I thought, okay, this is going to be a little bit more serious. It might have a couple of laughs, but I was laughing out loud at a couple. Some of them are just what you would call sort of like, I'm going to say dumb jokes, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a character saying something quirky. And it had me laughing out loud a few times. So congratulations. Oh, yeah. I loved it.
Thanks. Yeah. No, the cops, are straight up.
Oh yeah. That's
dumb. It's straight up dumb. There's nothing more. It's just dumb.
But if I had to say the scene that sums it up the best is probably the well scene, because you got the family with the ashes around the well, and yes, it's sad, and there's some that are actually, saying something very meaningful. But at the same time, you have this joke where somebody says, I can't quite do this right now, and the thing just keeps going on. It was so funny. I loved it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So for the jawheads that want to check out Monuments, where should we send them online to view this and get excited for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on where your folks are listening from, their local art house movie theater, it might actually be playing at it. So I would encourage folks to go to rowhousefilms.com/monuments. And I'm sure we can throw it in some of the language of the show.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes, of course.
Because we're doing a theatrical run with a place called Row House Films, and it's like an art house limited release. So we're at all of these different art houses across the country right now. If folks are listening in Chicago, which I'm assuming you have a decent listenership in Chicago, and so for the folks who are listening in Chicago, it's playing at the Gene Siskel Film Center, but that is just virtual right now because Siskel's not open yet. So if you go to either rowhousefilms.com/monuments or Gene Siskel Film Center's website, you can find the film and you can watch it at home right now, this second.
Do it, jawheads. You will enjoy it for sure. I see it's holding an 83% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Jack. It's only going to go up.
It's only going up. We got 100% of the audience score, so that's probably only going down.
All right. You heard us celebrating Ryan Reynolds at the top of the show. If I had to ask you, Jack, what is your favorite Ryan Reynolds film? Your answer?
Golly. I also sort of like Ryan Reynolds. His shtick, it works for me. It makes me laugh. It's tricky without looking at like a list of his films in front of me, though.
With your gut, man. If it's Green Lantern, we're okay with it. Okay.
I've never actually seen that one. That's one of the ones I haven't seen.
Boy, are you lucky.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to go with a old school, really inappropriate one. But when I was like in whatever high school or college or whatever, there was the Van Wilder. We watched that a lot when we were younger, and it's completely inappropriate and I'm sure aged terribly. But I feel like that was like his like introduction of his shtick, which is funny. I think he's funny. And the Deadpool ones are good too. It's basically Van Wilder, but with swearing, and he's dead.
That's accurate.
I love it. All right. Jack is sitting in on this entire jaw. He has his top 5 hot movies picked out as well. Before we get there though, Matt, we saw a musical together. It was your first trip back to the movie theater, Matt Kay.
I know, a momentous occasion.
Were you okay? How was the movie theater experience for you?
Well, I was quickly reminded how that Dolby Atmos Coca-Cola ad in the beginning that you were talking about really does shock you right into it. I mean, we were just chit-chatting and then the lights go down, boom, and that Coke starts pouring and you jump out of your seat, man.
I know. That ice cube goes into the glass and yeah, it rumbles.
Yeah, you think it's an earthquake or something, which is cool. And it was nice to be back in the theater. It was great to see some familiar faces. It was nice and chilly. The chairs were comfy. It reminded me, Ryan. It reminded me. In the Heights comes from an all-star producing team, including writers Lin-Manuel Miranda, who also penned Hamilton, and Chiara Allegra Hoods, who won a Pulitzer Prize and also wrote Elliot, as well as director John Chu, who gave us Crazy Rich Asians. The cast may be slightly less well-known off the stage, with the exception of Jimmy Smits, but nonetheless talented to the nines. But we have seen many, many times where a film's pedigree does not live up to what's on the screen. Will this latest musical pass the test, or is In the Heights in the lows? I returned to the theater with Ryan to find out.
What does sueñito mean?
Sueñito. It means little dream.
That's it? No story?
All right, everybody sit down. It's a story of a block that was disappearing. In un barrio called Washington Heights. The streets were made of music. I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated. Morning, Usnavi. Pan caliente, café con leche.
On these blocks, you can't walk 2 steps without bumping into someone's big plan.
I'm making moves, I'm making deals, but guess what? What? You still ain't got no skills.
In the Heights opens with New York bodega owner Usnavi telling the story of Washington Heights to 4 curious young children on a tropical beach. We then flash back to said bodega and corner of the world, literally and figuratively, and are introduced to the principal characters one by one through song as they interact at the bodega. This number, In the Heights, along with being the title track, was my favorite musically of the bunch. Usnavi and his best friend Benny, played by Corey Hawkins, each have a love interest, who in turn each have their own personal struggles and dreams, and essentially the entire first act sets up a rich and deep and tightly knit cast of characters. There's a lot of story here, almost to a fault, Ryan, as every single character we meet has an arc. The central theme is that of a community which is disappearing to vague gentrification, and the players who need to decide both as a community and as individuals what's worth holding on to and what is healthier to let go. I'm no connoisseur of fine musicals. I've never seen Hamilton, but I can tell you that I'm not a fan of when 90% of the dialogue is just sung. There are few breaks in the Heights. That's just a personal preference, and I'm sure many will disagree with it, and that's fine. The music was good, but I didn't walk away with any songs stuck in my head because they were so loose in form with such few refrains. They weren't sticky. That's just another personal preference of mine. Also, there's a major sag before the first set of conflicts are introduced. I was getting a little bored, but luckily, Rye, the movie picks it up with the third act in a big and satisfying way, and I was along to see how each character arc played out. The costumes and set design and the choreography are simply dazzling. The movie pops right off the screen in moments. Though the story of In the Heights is not my lived experience, I think it's precisely because of that this is an important movie for representation. I connected to these characters and their community, and I felt the empathy. The movie does a great job of illustrating how a community has a diverse set of backgrounds and cultures, and how at our best, we can all melt together on the shared journey of humanity. It never simplifies, boils things down, nor does it preach. In fact, I think it could have perhaps gotten a touch more political in some scenes. In the Heights is not without some flaws, but even this non-musical fan was won over in the end. It's a visual and audible sensation. Go out and see it on the biggest, loudest screen available. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, you know when a movie soars, and I'm going to give you an example here, and I'll actually use a musical moment as an example. A movie soars when Elsa in Frozen sings "Let It Go."
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
This film just the film in general, like when that happens, just leaps into a whole nother level. Well, In the Heights has several moments where it starts to take off, but each time it failed to really leap up and soar. I mean, there's at least 3 or 4 moments when I was saying, here we go. Here we go. I'm starting to feel goosebumps, and then it fades back down. Take a scene that I truly loved when Benny and Nina dance on the side of a building. It was like a cross between a Michael Jackson video and La La Land. It's
little Spider-Man thrown in there.
Yes, I'll go with that as well. It sparkles with magic, but even that sequence didn't quite hit the stars. This is not to say I did not like the film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just did not love it like I wanted to. But I'm glad I saw it, like you just mentioned, Matt, on the big screen, so I could properly take in the scope of the large set pieces, such as the musical number about the lottery, which takes place in a swimming pool where the entire community is there. There had to be about 200 extras dancing. That was fabulous.
It was like a synchronized swimming sort of scene. It was colorful, popped, but I agree, man. I really wanted to be like blown away. This is the movie of the summer, the musical we're all going to be talking about come Oscar time. It was really good, but it was not excellent.
Yeah, it starts off, I think maybe part of the problem we had, because I also thought it sagged at one point, was that it started off with such a ball of energy. The song is fantastic. The dance sequence is great. The screening we were at, and I missed this so much, had an applause break after the first number. It was like, yes, I forgot what it's like to be in a theater when a movie does something so good that the people are cheering. And it has that right off the bat. I think it then sags because that first number is so big and boom, bombastic right in your face.
What do you think about what I'm trying to say about the songs not having, it's not like verse, chorus, verse, refrain, where you're singing along the chorus that you learned the first time you hear it, and it's such a catchy tune, you're going to be humming it on your way back to the car. There's none of that in this movie.
Yeah, this is where I think we feel old, Matt. I think people younger listening to this podcast are like, what the hell are they talking about? It's the music style of Hamilton and this that everybody's going crazy about.
Right.
But I actually agree with you that I didn't walk out singing any one of the songs.
But even Hamilton, I've never seen it, but I know, I'm not going to miss my shot, and some of the other songs that I've just heard people singing, Just
do you want to sing? Do you want to sing those for us, Matt, right now, just real quick?
I mean, I'm a little rusty. Put me on the spot.
That's okay. We're ready for it.
I'm not. I mean, it's mostly rapped, isn't it?
But who did sing the songs well is the cast. Anthony Ramos, who was the lead, was excellent, as was Melissa Barrera, I think is how you say her last name, is Vanessa. Yeah. What about Jimmy Smith, though? What do you think? I was just going to ask you about this. So Jimmy Smith starts singing, and listen, I'm a huge Jimmy Smith fan. Going back to L.A. Law, was that the TV show? Jesus. Mm-hmm. Throw it in the fish tank just to make sure, but I'm 90% sure.
And obviously the Star Wars films and stuff like that. He's a national treasure.
Here you go again. You're going to get us in trouble. I don't know if Jimmy Smith's is a national
I said it,
treasure.
Ryan, and that makes it true. Jimmy Smith.
We're going to hear
national
feedback
treasure.
on that, I'm sure.
When he opened his mouth to sing, I was very taken aback. He's a good singer, and he's got a way high voice. It was like near falsetto range. I don't know like my musical ranges here with vocals, but it was a way higher voice than I was expecting from Jimmy Smith's.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun casting choice for sure.
Yeah, he was a good familiar face to sort of anchor us, into something familiar.
Was there a jaw-dropping moment for you, Matt K?
I would say Abuela's song toward the end of the movie, or the third act anyway. She's the matriarch of this community, and she sings about her life in the 40s and how her family came to America and the stuff they went through. And it's sort of almost like a haunting scene where she's on the subway and she's kind of going through time in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that very affecting. I love the song. It was probably my second favorite. It's just a strong moment in the movie. That was mine. How about you?
I was sitting next to Matt K, so I got to be manly. We're sitting right next to each other, and I had tears coming down my cheek when she was singing. So that was very touching.
It's just the air conditioning,
I'll go with then. I had that written down, and also the building dance sequence that I alluded to, and I almost don't want to spoil how it starts because it's one of those like movie magic moments where you don't sort of see it coming. And then when it starts to happen, you're like, oh yeah, just go for it. This is fantastic. I didn't want it to end. Just keep dancing on the sides of buildings. It was incredible.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it either, but I will say that right before they kind of go
into it.
Yeah. I was actually a little nervous for the characters with gravity, if you know what I mean.
So was I, 100%. I think they did something because a plane comes around the back way they must have put in. It did something with our visual where I was almost like, whoa, this is incredible,
vertigo.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they did that on purpose, no doubt.
That was great. You got a movie poster quote?
In the Heights hits the high note.
I went with, in the Heights gets high, but not high enough to soar. Going back to my
that's fair
review. How many Jaws?
I give this 3 Jaws. This is a solid movie. Go see it. You will have fun, even if you don't wind up singing it on the way to the car afterwards.
3 Jaws as well from Rye the Movie Guy. We're alike, Matt.
Yeah, that's strange.
And we didn't even talk much about it when we came out of the screening, and we still agreed.
I almost wore my white T-shirt today, just like you, Ryan. I mean, seriously.
Well, it's hot, you know?
It is, exactly. It's hot out.
And we should mention In the Heights has a heat wave,
yes,
in the movie. And
it's the tie-in there.
Right. And everybody, the power goes out, and it's a key moment in the film, symbolism. And we thought, God, yes, hot movies. This is good. We've never done high temperature movies. And it actually does come up, not in all the ways people may be thinking, listening to this right now. They're probably thinking beach, but it actually comes up in several films in other ways. So hopefully we'll be creative with it. Jawheads, if you see In the Heights, agree, disagree with our review, or just want to comment on it, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Jack, we asked you top 5 hot movies.
I'm ready for
Was
it.
it a tough list for you to come up with?
I always get nervous when I do my list with you guys because you never know I don't know what you guys are going to do. So it's
Right.
You always want to make
So
sure.
you gotta have a few extras in case we go slant one way.
Well, that's the thing. So I had a question. I don't remember the rules. So if you do one of mine, do I say, oh, I had that, or that's completely up to my discretion?
Completely up to your discretion. You can sub one out.
You can sub one in, or you can just leave and double it up. It's totally up to you.
I'm going to go into my wastebasket and pull all my other ideas that I had in case one. Because you guys are definitely going to take one of these. I mean, I can't imagine.
I thought it was a banana peel, but no, it's Jack's got a yellow piece of paper that he is uncrunching.
Good audio for the podcast.
Oh yeah, we've shuffled fake papers in front of the microphones many times.
Many times. All right, Jack, you're getting us started with your number 5 hot movie.
Okay, number 5, hot movie. I'm going with, partly this is on the list because it's a favorite of mine. I think it's a really great film. It does fit. And it's Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, which I don't know if you guys know this movie. It actually got a bit of heat during the pandemic because someone tweeted about it, that it's a really boring movie. And Russell Crowe was like, excuse me, sir. And now they're doing a prequel, which is interesting. So
are they really?
Yeah.
Oh,
they
awesome.
greenlit a prequel. So I think it's an incredible film. I really love it for a lot of reasons. But there's a section in the film when the Jonas, they all think the Jonas is essentially hexed the ship, and they're sailing around the south tip of South America, and they get caught in like, there's no rain, it's all hot, it's awful. And there's a sequence of the film actually where they're just like sitting there baking. And then the movie's been out for a while, so I'm going to ruin it. The guy kills himself because he's like, I'm the reason why we're all stuck here. And then the next day it starts raining and they're back sailing again. So number 5, Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
I'm glad you brought that one up. The movie actually doesn't come up enough on the jaw for as good a film as it is. So
I think it's excellent. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about it. I watch it all the time.
Nice. All right. Swinging it over to my number 5, Rye. I'm going with the 1997 fantasy action superhero. I want to say travesty, but I love this movie. It's a guilty pleasure. John Leguizamo's awesome in it. Spawn is the movie.
Wow. I have not seen Spawn, so I have no comment here, Matt.
Michael Jai White as Al Simmons, a.k.a. Spawn. In the 90s, Spawn had a moment where he almost eclipsed Spider-Man as the most popular superhero in America. He was...
You mean Batman? You said Spider-Man.
No. I meant Spider-Man.
Wow. Those are fighting words.
Are they? I mean, listen, I love Batman. We can have that argument another time. So Spawn really had this moment, right? And then this movie came out and everyone was anticipating it. Is this going to, be his big breakout that makes him a true household name, because the HBO animated series that MTV produced was huge. And as good as as good as John Leguizamo is as the Violator, it maybe missed the mark with general audiences, and some of the special effects are highly questionable, but damn it, I love it.
Well, why is it hot? You got to explain the hot scene.
Okay. Well, a good portion of the movie takes place in hell.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
Hell Spawn. And it doesn't really get much hotter than that, right?
Gotcha. Well, you got to explain it.
I remember when that movie came out and I was all equally excited, and I'm just like, what did we just watch? Like, that was so bad. Incoherent and just bad. I mean,
and even back then, Jack, you probably said to yourself, this will probably end up on Matt Kay's top 5 list someday.
Like, I'm going to meet Matt Kay in like 15 years, and 5 years later, he's going to put this on a list.
I wish I could say with my number 5 that I'm just going to destroy Matt's pick there, but I actually have somewhat of a crapper as my number 5 as well, but it fits this list well. And I know it's never come up on this podcast in the 10 years we've been doing it. Number 1, it has Charlie Sheen in it. So here we go. 1996. This is when Charlie Sheen, believe it or not, he was still a serious actor. Made a movie called The Arrival. Not Arrival, The Arrival.
Right.
Was that before or after Hot Shots Part 2?
Throw it in the fish tank, Phil.
Serious actor. And
I'm guessing during, but that's what I'm going to say.
So Charlie Sheen in this movie plays a radio astronomer.
Oh, that's right. And
he discovers an alien signal coming from a nearby star, but he's dismissed because he's Charlie Sheen. And I was just like, you're crazy. But he goes on this goose chase and ends up discovering an alien base underneath like a nuclear power plant that has been warming Earth. And it turns out, and this is why it's on my list, it's a pretty cool idea. It turns out that aliens are causing global warming here on Earth for 2 reasons. 1, to eliminate and wipe out humans. And secondly, to make the planet warm enough so they can live on it, because they need like hot temperature planets. I thought that was a pretty cool concept.
That is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I did not see that one.
How it aged, I can't say. Haven't seen it probably since I saw it when it came out.
I mean, that's one of those ones where like 2 weeks later it didn't age well. You know, it's like, ooh, that movie from 2 weeks ago is terrible.
Yeah. That was my number 5. Into our 4s we go. What do you got sitting there, Jack?
Okay, so I think if we're keeping score, like my number 5 was the best one, right? Is that right?
Oh,
Is that we play
hands
this
down.
game?
Hands down.
Okay,
And we'll keep score the rest of the show. I like it.
I'm actually really excited about my number 4, and I'm not sure if you guys are gonna have this on, but this was actually my first movie on my list is the first thing I thought of when you guys said this prompt, because it's the only one that could be number 1, and if it's not your number 1s, we're gonna have words. This was the second one that came to mind, but I didn't put it as number 2. I put it as number 4, and it's The Hunt for Red October.
Not on my list, but I love this one.
Yeah, but how is it a hot movie?
Well, so that's the thing is I was like, oh, is this a hot movie? But like the entire movie, so for those people who don't know, they're in submarines the entire time, and everyone is like just sweating their butts off the entire time. And, you know, there's nuclear reactors and there's all that going on. So it's a bit of a stretch, but like whenever I think of Hunt for Red October, I just think of everyone just glistening with sweat, just like pouring with sweat. Mostly like Sam Neill and like the Russians, actually. And it's a great movie.
It is a great movie. It's one of the few movies that has a submarine chase scene.
That's true, which is
I'm wondering if there's going to be a boat in every one of Jack's picks.
Yes, in keeping with the nautical theme, for no reason.
Yeah, no arguments here for the Hunt for Red October.
All right. I guess that swings it back over to me, and I'm going with a movie from 1972 that I just found out has a 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is a sort of a Russ Myers style exploitation film, the women in prison genre, which was big at this time. It stars Pam Grier and Sid Haig. It is The Big Birdcage. Takes place in the Philippines at a sort of a camp for women that have been captured by the government for either real or imagined crimes. It's probably what you expect, but it's also Pam Grier and Sid Haig at the absolute peak of their careers. This might be the best example of this sort of exploitation genre film that you can find. It's one of my favorites. I've seen it maybe a dozen times. It's really good.
Nice, Matt. A hidden gem from Matt K.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how hidden this is. I mean, I think a lot of people who are into genre films will be very familiar with it. But you guys, especially you, Ryan, need to see this one.
I'll write this one down. You've piqued my interest. My number 4 is where I went outside the box thinking hot movies, and I put a documentary on my list. 2012, Chasing Ice.
Okay, thank God. You didn't steal mine.
2012 documentary film about the efforts of nature photographer James Bullog and his extreme ice survey, where he basically photographed the ice caps and these glaciers for years, watching them melt so that there would be no argument anymore on global warming, since people are still saying it's fake and yada, yada. He went and he filmed for years, watching the glaciers. And then you can actually look at the photographs and see these massive glaciers shrinking and the water levels rising. So it sort of ends the myth that, oh, this is just all fake for the people who don't believe in global warming. Excellent documentary. There's a lot of good ones on global warming that I may come up. Maybe Matt has something on there, but I do recommend the 2012 film Chasing Ice, my number 4 pick.
That's a good rec. I've never actually seen that one.
I'm not either.
Who wins that round? I might give it to Matt K.
I'm going to say Matt K. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, Matt's got to win under his belt.
Anytime you pull out Pam Grier, you got to win that round.
Yeah.
Into our 3s, Jack.
Okay. I love Akira Kurosawa, and so I had to go. He made 2 films that sort of took place during heat waves. One was a really early film for his that was almost on my list called Stray Dog, with a very, very young Toshihiro Mifune, and that's a good one. But one of my all-time favorites, and that's why it's on this list, is a movie called High and Low, which is sort of what Parasite borrows incredibly heavily from. If you guys remember Parasite from a couple years ago,
sure.
Remember I had someone who saw Parasite I don't know if you guys remember that, but everyone was like, "Oh my God, Parasite!" And it was like, "Cool, you saw a foreign film. Like, congratulations!" I mean, people went bonkers over that movie. And I was like, "You should watch High and Low because that's really what Parasite is borrowing a lot from." So High and Low is the story about a rich guy who he's rich and he's like a rich businessman, and he thinks that his son is kidnapped. But what ends up happening is that his butler's son has been kidnapped because the kidnapper got him confused. And they play with this thing where at first, like when he thinks his son is kidnapped, he's like, "Of course I'll pay it." But then when he finds out that his son is fine, but it's his butler, he's like, "I'm not sure what I'm going to do." And so it's fascinating. And it takes place during a heat wave. And a lot of the movie is about Toshihiro Mifune, who plays the rich businessman, lives like on a hill. And this guy like always lived his entire life looking up at Toshihiro Mifune, and Toshihiro Mifune's got like air conditioning and all this stuff. And this guy lives in this like hot, it's basically hell. I mean, high and low, heaven and hell. And so he's like living in a metaphorical hell, and he wants to try to like exact his revenge on it. And Kurosawa, one of the things he did so well in all of his films is that he always finds ways to bring in the elements. So rain, wind, water, I mean, all of the elements, you can really, when you watch his films, you really feel them. And it's a great, great film. It's a really weird structural film for those people who want to get into it, because the first like very long period of time, you just don't see people do this in movies, but the first like 14 minutes of the movie is a conversation that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. But it does. It's sort of hard to explain. He's like makes ladies' shoes, like they make female shoes, and it's like a corporate takeover that's about to happen. And you're like, what movie am I watching right now? Is this like a movie about corporate takeover? And then it like heads off in a total different direction.
Tarantino tries to accomplish that occasionally, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Where he'll have these really long scenes, and then it goes in a completely different direction. Probably Inglourious Bastards would be a decent. Maybe Hateful Eight would be another one like that. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Awesome. Phil, can we throw that in the fish tank and see if it's streaming on one of the big streamers?
Dude, I just got to go down the Kurosawa rabbit hole one day and do like triple features.
Have you done any? Are you at all?
I've definitely done one or two, but it's not enough. So, and the name obviously comes up quite a bit when you're doing a movies podcast. So it's high time.
There's a lot of Kurosawa references in Monuments. Actually, the opening sequence is a homage to Yojimbo, to the opening of Yojimbo. So now I'm a huge fan. So yeah, I think you'd enjoy it, Matt. I think the Kurosawa stuff is great.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt I would enjoy it. I mean, absolutely. All right. I think this is a downshift from Kurosawa. I mean, what isn't? But I'm going with, it's a Chicago movie, you guys. So you got to have a bit of a soft spot in your heart, especially when you're talking about Jim Belushi and his only collaboration with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Whoa.
That is Red Heat.
It's a huge step down. Matt, how could you do this?
I mean, but how could it not have been a step down? So if you're going to step down, you might as well just jump.
Yes.
Right? So it's one of the few roles, and Arnie said this himself, where his accent he felt was a plus for the character. And although I never really found his accent terribly distracting, maybe the first time I saw Terminator, but we love Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Jim Belushi's pretty decent. So I think a buddy cop movie with those two in Chicago, totally worth revisiting.
I don't think so. I think it's the least worthy revisit Schwarzenegger movie there is, probably.
That's probably true. What about Kindergarten Cop?
I'd still take Kindergarten Cop over that.
I love Kindergarten Cop.
Some great one-liners.
There's got to be a worse Arnie movie than
I don't think so. All right. 3, 2, and 1, all masterpieces. No argument. You guys can't even argue that all three of these aren't masterpieces. So I may have Jack's number 1 here, or maybe me and Jack have the same number 1, but all three of these are masterpieces. My number 3, 1957, Sidney Lumet, 12 Angry Men. Still your number 1, Jack?
No, it was on my honorables.
Honorables.
Yeah.
So people are probably familiar. It's a courtroom movie. It's about jurors, 12 angry men, if you will, and the entire film takes place in an overheated jury room where no one wants to be. And the heat symbolizes the pressure that is on these individuals to make the right choices. The heat symbolizes the fact that the people don't want to be there, that they're agitated. So it's not just there for, show. And it does give the characters, I read about how it gave characters something to do, since it's a movie, basically one room movie with 12 people talking. You need something going on, as things to do, go to the fan, so on and so forth. But it does have all the symbolism of these characters always making the decisions under pressure. But of course we have Henry Fonda's cold blue eyes to cool us off. Even in black and white, still looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's a
big fan.
It's a great film. I love that film.
Yeah, no arguments.
Who won this round? We'll give it to Jack.
I'd give it to Jack.
Okay, I'll take it. 12 Angry Men was a good one, though. So
yes,
you guys have Kurosawa and Lumet, and I have
Schwarzenegger and Belushi.
Yeah.
What we can definitely say is Matt lost that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Into our twos.
Okay, I mean, I'm definitely, I feel like I'm in masterpiece territory now too, Ryan. Starting with 3, High and Low for sure. And I think also my list is definitely getting more of a theme. The more I do it, the more I'm realizing that I had a theme for this, which was that how heat affects people, not necessarily going with like, they're in hell or whatever, which I think is a really good way to interpret the prompt though. So I'm going to go number 2, one of my all-time favorites, Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock.
Nice. Of course. Yeah.
Also my number 2. We're thinking the same here, Jack.
Exact same. I love Rear Window, and everyone's probably seen it and can talk about it. So my sharing of Rear Window is that, and no one's going to listen to this, right? I can tell you guys a secret, right? We're not recording this. Cool. But I was like, I'm still fascinated with this idea of doing a like remake sequel of Rear Window, where you tell the movie from Thorwald's position. So you basically make the exact same movie, but Thorwald's the guy who kills his wife. So you just you go into his apartment and you watch Jimmy Stewart watching him the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so obsessed with this idea. I watched Rear Window countless times. And even to the spot where I would watch it and actually like type out the movie. Like while I was watching, I sort of transcribed it while I was watching it.
Did you draw like diagrams of the courtyard and stuff?
Yeah. And I was like, so I wrote it out while I was watching it, and then I'd watch it again and be like, okay, what would the scene with Thorwald be here? So like my relationship with that movie is sick probably, or like obsessive in some way. But it's so good. I mean, it's just such an excellent film, and it also takes place during heat wave.
Yep, absolutely. It's the heat wave that has everybody's windows open so that he can spy on his neighbors.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Before we all had air conditioners, so it's a great pick.
Have you seen it, Matt?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
come on, man.
Just make it sure.
I love now Hitchcock. On the other hand, I have seen a sizable chunk of his movies. I mean, because now we're getting into genre, right? I mean, Psycho. How could I have not seen Psycho?
Sure.
The Birds, and that was just the tip of the iceberg for me. I recently watched Rebecca, and when the remake came out, and geez, Rope I've seen. I really like Rope.
Yeah, Rope's good. Anyway. Yeah, he's good. Even when Hitchcock's bad, he's pretty good.
No doubt.
All right.
Matt, you're number 2?
Yeah, tough to follow up Hitchcock, but I think I have one of the greatest living directors working today in Hollywood, Spike Lee. And I'm not going where I think you think I'm going.
I know where you're going.
He has done a couple of movies during heat waves, maybe even 3. But my particular favorite is the one set in 1977, the second appearance of John Leguizamo on my top 5 list, Summer of Sam.
Oh, man.
I don't know why you're laughing. I love this movie.
I know. I watched it because you recommended it, and I was like, what is Matt thinking here, recommending this on The Jaw so much?
I love Summer of Sam. It's set in New York during the 1977 heat wave. There's a power outage. The people are really scared because the son of Sam killer is stalking everybody. John Leguizamo, Mira Sorvino, and Adrian Brody as this punk rock dude. And it's kind of like In the Heights, but without music and with serial killers and with Adrian Brody as a punk. So what's not to like? And Spike Lee directed it.
When I told Rebecca that I was like, oh, we're doing the top 5 hot movies, she actually brought up Son of Sam. Or Summer of Sam. Summer of Sam. Yeah. But is it actually good? I saw it once when it came out. And I don't remember it. Does it hold up?
I'm not going to say it's awful, but it's not the way Matt puts it on top 5 lists. Good. It should be mentioned every once in a while. Not
on
like
a top 5 heat wave list. I mean, sure.
A heat wave list and Spike Lee, and you don't go with something else that we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I figured most people would have that on their list. So I wanted to do something that was a personal favorite. I like Summer of Sam. Maybe it's the whole punk connection. I really like Leguizamo, and I always had a crush on Mira Sorvino. So
there you go.
It just hit me.
Yeah. All right. My number 2, as mentioned, Rear Window. Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly. You can't go wrong with this film. If you haven't seen it, pause the podcast, put it on. If I was going to sub one in just for giggles, but don't write it down, Phil, in the show notes as Rear Window. If I was going to write one, sub one in, I'd go Lawrence of Arabia, which was
sure,
an honorable mention. Is this your number 1, Jack, or no?
No, I didn't even think of that. That's the look on that face right there. I was like, cannot believe I didn't even think of that.
This was an honorable mention of mine. Obviously, the heat here, very real, out in the desert, and the amazing mirage shot. Just that alone it puts it on the list. But yes, Lawrence of Arabia. If you have 6.5 hours on a Saturday afternoon, put it on. That's the only problem with that movie. I've only seen it 2 times because it's just so long, you know?
It is long. And actually, I like Lawrence of Arabia. It's not my favorite of his, though. I think for me, Bridge on the River Kwai, which you actually could also make a hot reference, or it could be a hot movie thing. That one is that's probably top 5 movies for me for all time, Bridge on the River Kwai.
He only makes epics, David.
And he does them well. He does them quite well.
Here it is, Jack. It's our number 1s. You're getting it started here. Cinemajaw number 1 hot movies. What do you got sitting there?
I mean, it's the only one. It has to be. It's non-negotiable. Robbed of all of the Oscars that year. I don't think it won anything. And when you look back and see what it lost against, like Dances with Wolves and this other, it's just insane because this is an American masterpiece. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. I mean,
my number 1. We did it right, Jack.
Yeah, wow. The quintessential summer hot movie. I mean, and I think it is similar to 12 Angry Men, like you said, Ryan, and because it is this pressure cooker sort of situation that leads to it, but also, and obviously 12 Angry Men's black and white because of the technology, but one of the things that sticks with me for Do the Right Thing is you, just like Kurosawa, like you feel the heat, like when you watch Do the Right Thing, like the colors and the way in which they photograph it, like you really feel like you're hot when you watch it. It might be Rosie Perez doing that dance up top or just the red wall. But it's or Samuel L. Jackson doing his DJ thing. But it's just the quintessential. I mean, as soon as you guys said, what is the hot movies? It's like Do the Right Thing.
Yep.
I almost wanted to try to do all 5 as just Do the Right Thing, if I'm being completely honest.
It was the first movie I wrote down. The funny story about this, Jack, is I'm sure you have a few big movies out there that you have not seen, you know, that are just blind spots. Yeah. Do the Right Thing was that for me for the longest time. Everybody would say, oh, what do you think of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing? I was like, I didn't see it. So all the way up until last year, we do these celebrating actors like we did Ryan Reynolds. He had The Five Bloods coming out and we did a whole month on Spike Lee. And I said, that's it. No excuses. I got to watch Do the Right Thing. And hearing so much about it, I didn't think it could live up to what the legend of Do the Right Thing. And I sat there after it was done and I thought, oh my God, I just watched, like you said, an American masterpiece. These don't come around that good. And how they screwed it up, throw it in the fish tank, Phil. How many Oscars it was nominated for? And Jack's right. It didn't win any.
Which is, I mean,
it's a joke.
It's a joke. Racist at worst. I actually just saw E.T., Ryan, for the first time.
Oh, there you go.
And I'll be honest, I didn't like it. I thought it was really boring.
Thank you. Who was just whining about how great E.T. was?
Oh, that was Eric. Yeah, Eric Childress.
Eric Childress, and love and respect for Eric Childress, but he has this like childhood soft spot for E.T. And I'm like, dude, you got to let that go, man. E.T. is not as good as
I just did a film, and my AD on it is like E.T. is like why he got into film. So we shot this movie together, and he was like, "You haven't seen E.T. You need to see E.T." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna watch E.T." And just had to really break his heart when I was like, I thought this movie was boring as hell. Like I just did not work for me.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that happens more often than you like a film when you've gone that long without seeing a movie that people keep telling you to see.
Sure.
It's tough to live up to those expectations, but for me, Do the Right Thing just blew me away. So my number one as well. That leaves Matt with his number one pick.
Yeah,
and
boys,
if you got another Belushi pick, Matt, you aren't coming back on next week.
I went sort of serious with my number one, but it's also a documentary. Probably the finest on-screen appearance of Al Gore that we could hope for. The OG of climate change movies, An Inconvenient Truth, which for a lot of people, probably not nobody here on this podcast right now, was maybe their first exposure to this concept. And Al Gore, to his credit, wrote the screenplay and did a very good job presenting this data. And the part where he goes up on the scissor lift to point to how hot it's going to get at the top of the chart, it was remarkable. And it was a game changer. It was also one of the first documentaries that was kind of a blockbuster too. Maybe not the first, but one of the few, let's say, that broke through the documentary sort of field into the mainstream. So that's my number one.
That's at least a worthy number one, man. I'm not going to
thank you.
I'm not going to give you a hard time.
Certainly no Do the Right Thing, but it's a damn good documentary.
All right. Honorable mentions. I had a couple other big ones. The two other big ones I left off was Barton Fink.
Yes.
Which was Coen Brothers and another Heat Wave. And again, they're so good with the Heat Wave and the writer's block. It works so well. And Dog Day Afternoon.
Thank you. Yes.
That's my other one. Those are my two.
Falling Down, I talk about it an awful lot, so I left it off the list, but that's set during a heat wave in LA. And also, what about Wet Hot American Summer?
On my list also, Matt.
Does deserve a mention.
The only other one I had was Body Heat,
which I have not seen. I saw that in my research. I have not seen Body Heat.
Kathleen Turner and William Hurt.
I've seen Body Heat. Yeah, it's kind of a sexy,
Yeah, it's like a neo noir, I guess you could call it. It would have been, if it was made in the 1950s as a black and white noir with like Humphrey Bogart, it would fit right in. But it's that sort of movie. It's fine. It's good. You know, it's worth seeing. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it's like, this is good. You know,
better than P.I. Warshawski?
Maybe on par.
All right. You know what I was reminded of while doing the research here? There is a movie called Heat, but it's not the one you're thinking of with Pacino and De Niro. It is starring Burt Reynolds from 1986, and I've totally seen this movie. I'm not going to tell you it's worth watching, but it is a Burt Reynolds, like, no tongue-in-cheek, totally serious action movie from 1986.
Wow.
I'm a bit surprised that Heat with Pacino and De Niro was nowhere near anyone's lists, actually.
No.
I thought about it, but yeah.
Was it too much of a stretch?
Maybe too much of a stretch because it's about heat in the metaphorical sense, you know, with the pressure, but not. It wasn't about temperature, so I kind of left it off.
Oh, Sunshine could have been an honorable mention. The Danny Boyle sci-fi movie.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah,
big fan.
Yeah,
Jawheads. If we missed your favorite hot movie and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Let's get that discussion going. We are going to take a quick break, cool off, if you will. And when we come back, we have a review of Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and Jack vs. Matt in Road Trip movie trivia. Stick with us. In 2009, Two of my favorite actors got together to make a romantic comedy, Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds. How could it not be good? Just listen to this great scene in which Ryan Reynolds comes up with a ridiculous idea of where his parents live. This is the proposal.
Have the two of you told your parents about your secret love?
Impossible. My parents are dead.
What, are your parents dead?
Oh, no, his are very much alive.
Very much.
They're, well, we were going to tell them this weekend. Gammy's 90th birthday, and the whole family's coming together, and we thought it'd be a nice surprise.
And where is this surprise going to take place?
At Andrew's parents' house.
Where's that located again?
Why am I doing all the talking? Jump in.
Sitka.
Sitka.
Alaska.
Alaska.
You're going to go to Alaska this weekend?
Yeah.
Yes. We are going to Alaska. That's where my Andrew's from.
Okay.
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Jack C. Newell. His new movie, Monuments, is streaming. If you can find it in your local theater, arthouse theater, or go to their website, see where you can find it. Excellent movie. Another film Jack came on the show to promote was called 42 Grams. And I have a friend who was listening to Cinemajaw present, and then he started to just go back in the catalog. And I don't know when we recorded that. That was years ago.
A couple years at least.
But for some reason, he lands on that episode because I think we did favorite kitchen scenes, and I think that appealed to him. And so he wrote me a message after he listened to the show, and he's like, dude, I'm going to watch this movie, 42 Grams. And I'm like, oh, do it. You know, Jack's a great guy. And he loved it. And he doesn't love a lot of movies. He's not like a big movie guy like we are, you know? And so, and then he got this really nice message. And I said, next time I see Jack, I'm going to let him know that coming on Cinemajaw does work. 42 Grams. He watched it. He loved the movie.
That's
and
amazing.
I thought it's great. It's still streaming on one of the platforms for free, right?
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. I mean, it's great. I mean, you make movies so people can see them. I mean, and ideally enjoy them, although that's not what always happens, right? But no, that's amazing. I mean, that touches me. That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. No one makes movies to just like put away and show to no one. So I'm happy that your friend got a chance, or that person got a chance to see it and liked it and connected with it. That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Before we get to trivia and before we get to our review of The Conjuring 3, we threw a few items into the fish tank, and I know Phil gets hot in that fish tank. So let's open it up.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you guys so much. I hate to burst your bubble. I actually love the heat. I'm doing just fine. This whole week, I haven't been complaining at all. I also am the only one.
It's really bothering.
I am petite. I have anemic. I have very thin blood, so I thrive. I'm also the only one here who... Jack's wearing long sleeves. I
don't know what Jack's
I blame him for this. That's just his own fault.
I like the heat too. I mean, I'm not petite by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the heat too. I'm with Phil.
I came home and jumped in a cold shower. I was like, oh, I don't like the heat.
This is like at least 2 showers a day time of year, I would say, at least, sometimes more.
Yeah. I should also mention I am terribly sweaty, but that doesn't bother me. That bothers everyone else more than it bothers me. With that wonderful visual, let's get right into how many times Jack's been on the show. Jack is a very weird specimen in that he's had a lot of official guest appearances, but then like he's had unique, like Jack kind of exclusive appearances to the show. His conventional appearances, he's had 3 episodes before this one, numbers 283, 305, and 366. 366 was the best kitchen scenes. Yep. However, in addition to those 3, he's also been in our most recent Thanksgiving rerun special, our extra helping, where we played some of the audio from 366. And Jack has the opening words to our 500th celebration episode. You can hear him in that wonderful
Thank you for that, Jack.
Oh, no, that was a blast. I feel like it's like, what do they call it? It's like Tom Hanks and whoever else from Saturday Night Live who've been on it 10 times or whatever.
The 5 Timers Club.
I feel like I'm one away from the 5 Timers Club. Cinemajaw.
You get a jacket.
Okay. That'd be great.
This is 5 official. It's not an expensive jacket. It's like a very cheap nylon, but
I got it at the Goodwill. Okay.
No one else has one,
Put
Jack.
a Cinemajaw sticker on it.
Our next one was, what was the Jimmy Smits TV show? Matt had said it correct. It absolutely was LA Law.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it, and the Wikipedia page was too long for me to read. It came out a year after I was born, and that's my fact on LA Law.
Jeez, Phil. Always got to make me feel old.
We got... here's another one that'll make you feel old. Was the arrival before or after Hot Shots Part 2? This might have been a joke, but I looked it up anyways. Arrival was 1996, and Hot Shots Part 2 was a whopping 3 years earlier in 1993.
Whoa.
Yeah. So to call Charlie Sheen a serious actor at that time.
Hey, he was still cracking out the hits, though.
Here's what I will say. I have not... This was from my birth year, 1993. I have not seen this, but given that the poster is Charlie Sheen like drawing a bow, but instead of an arrow, it's got like a terrible
like rubber chicken,
clay chicken, rubber chicken. I don't know. If that is not serious acting to you, I don't know what is. It looks incredible. It looks fantastic.
I love the Hot Shot movies. They're kind of a send up to the 80s action, like Top Gun and
they were fun.
Rambo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is High and Low streaming anywhere? So it is on the Criterion channel. That is the Criterion streaming service, as well as Canopy, which, as a reminder, we always bring up this is a free service with your library card. Other than that, it's if your library doesn't offer Canopy and you don't have Criterion, it is available for rent in all the usual suspects. So you can check it out there. And then our last one, how many Oscars was Do the Right Thing nominated for? It was only nominated for 2. It was supporting actor and best screenplay. So it was not only snubbed on its wins, but snubs on it lost at nominations. They snubbed it before it could even be snubbed.
And wasn't Dances with Wolves the best picture that year, Phil? If you're in the fishbowl thing right now,
that's a great question.
But that Spike Lee didn't even get nominated for Best Director is just a travesty.
It is. It is. I think things are moving in a better direction.
No, you know what won? I remember. It actually came to me. Driving Miss Daisy won. Yes. Which is even a bigger slap in the face, Jack. Yeah. Am I right, Phil?
Yes, you are absolutely.
Was it
Driving Miss Daisy won? Yeah.
It's hard. The late 80s gets so many crappy movies. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, wow. Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in here.
All right, jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
Matt, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Back in 2013, horror master James Wan teamed up with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga to tell one of the many true stories from Ed and Lorraine Warren. The result was a mega success. The film grossed over $300 million and spawned one of, if not the best horror franchise of the new century. Spin-offs like the Annabelle movies and The Nun take a back seat, however, to the main installments. Did they make this third Conjuring film for the money, or did they do it because the devil told them to? Matt and I grabbed our rosaries and our holy water to check it out.
Hey! You okay there? Jesus. I think I hurt someone.
This is Ed Warren, here with Lorraine. All right, let's get started.
Residents of Brookfield were shocked this afternoon by the broad daylight murder of Bruno Sauls.
The court accepts the existence of God every time a witness swears to tell the truth. I think it's about time they accept the existence of the devil.
Whatever is going on, whatever happened that day, that was not Arnie.
It's a witch's totem. We think your family was cursed. And that connection's still open.
Ed and Lorraine Warren are back, which means there must also be another kid possessed somewhere. When the film opens, that kid is 8-year-old David Glatzel, and we meet them all in the middle of an exorcism. The Warrens, with the help of a priest, are trying to get the demon out of David's body, but are having no luck. In steps Arnie, who is the boyfriend of David's sister. He pleads with the demon. Take him instead and leave little David alone. It works. The demon jumps bodies, but the only person who saw it happen was knocked unconscious. So now, when Arnie commits murder, he's tried like a normal adult, but the Warrens believe they can fight this in court, claiming he was possessed. To prove their case, they travel back to the scene of the crime and start to become mixed up with some evil spirits. Now, I reviewed the first Conjuring on Cinemajaw, and my movie poster quote was, "I was so scared, I almost threw up in the theater." In 2016, I reviewed the second Conjuring film and talked about how I kicked WGN film critic Dean Richards in the leg at one point because of a great jump scare. This time around, no vomit, no kicking people in the legs. This was the least frightening Conjuring film so far. Sure, it had bodies contorting in disgusting ways, and I did jump a couple of times, but Conjuring 3 never got under my skin like the last two films. The case, which I should mention is based on a true story, is not that thrilling or suspenseful. Matt, this was your first Conjuring experience. How did it play out for you?
Well, I will say that I kind of had fun with it, Rye. It was, you know what? This was very much like Scooby-Doo. And who doesn't like a good episode of Scooby-Doo? It was a spooky mystery.
Patrick Wilson is Shaggy.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson is Shaggy. Come on, man. Matthew Lillard all the way. It was a fun mystery set in my old stomping grounds on the East Coast. I mean, places like Danbury, Connecticut, where I grew up, were in this movie. I love New England. The Warrens are interesting if kind of like obvious charlatans, you know, to have their legend on the big screen. I think it works just fine in horror, and that's okay. I don't know. It was very saccharine. I agree. Not very scary. Not the kind of horror movie that gets under your skin, but it was a fun time, and I thought it was like well produced.
Did you jump a little bit at any of the scenes? Oh, you did.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So at least that got to you.
Yeah, there were some good scares, and I like the villain, right? There's this like, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just say I liked the villain. It was sufficiently scary. Well,
I just want to know if is the villain the devil? You said you liked the villain. Is the villain the devil? Because the devil made me do it. Is this subtitle of the film?
Well, hey, Jack, you know, the devil's always the real villain, you know, but This time it's just some Satan worshipers, your standard occultists. Again, not a disturbing film, not one of those horror movies where you just feel icky and you got to lock the doors afterwards. And hey, I like those too, but sometimes you just want a good like Scooby-Doo episode, and this is that.
I will give them credit. The film looks pretty fantastic. I mean, the cinematography was great. The opening shot where the priest gets out of the car, definitely an homage to The Exorcist. Right off at the beginning. But I really wanted to give them credit, Matt, with the lighting in the film, because they have a great way, for example, of using just a desk lamp when Lorraine goes to see this priest who's now turned to being a farmer, and it's in that old creepy house, and he invites her down into this basement. He's got these old relics and stuff. It's just like a desk lamp. It's got that like classic like late 70s, early 80s kind of shade to it. And it's just positioned perfectly so that like her face has this orange glow. He's lit up from the bottom. Everything about it looks creepy. And all it is two characters talking about something, but it just gives such atmosphere to the scene. I loved it. Yeah, I did too. And there's even some like mild, and again, I keep going to this reference, but there's like a Scooby-Doo like twist, where they pull off the villain's mask and it's really somebody else. It's not exactly that, but I found that sort of satisfying. There's enough meat on this bone that it didn't have to be the scariest movie of all time. It was just fun. Keep in mind, though, folks, this is Matt's first Conjuring. I think you'd enjoy all of them much more than this one. Trust me on that. But David, the little kid who I talk about, we meet, who's possessed in the beginning, probably I thought was the scariest person in the movie when he was actually possessed. I thought that was excellent. Really well done. Everything about it. Little kids can be really creepy, especially when they have a deep voice that sounds like a demon. Yeah. You got a jaw-dropping moment here, Matt? Yeah, it was that opening exorcism. They launch you right into it, and there's like things flying out of cabinets and claw marks appearing on the walls and stuff. It was pretty intense. It was cool. I like the scene where Lorraine and Ed go down to the morgue, and Lorraine starts to touch the hand of a woman who's been pulled out of a lake. So she's recently dead, but just the look of her body is gross. So that's already got my jaw sort of like somewhat open, disgusted. And then something very scary happens down in the morgue, which is like, oh man, they got me. This is good. That was a good jump scare. And there's a callback to that later in the film. Oh, absolutely. And that got me also. The second one got me the second time just as much as the first. See, that was fun, right? That was good. Yeah. Movie poster quote? Well, here's interesting. Here's my quote, Ryan. You don't need to have seen any of the other Conjuring films to enjoy this Scooby-Doo-like horror. I went with, your prayers have been answered. Okay. That's all. Jaws? How many jaws? 2 jaws for Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. How about you? Yeah, I busted out the quarter jaw here. I'm going 2.25, 2.25 jaws. I think it was just a little bit above. I had a lot of fun. I think we got to abolish the quarter jaw. No, you need it. Sometimes you need to get that precision review in. We've had meetings about this, hours and hours spent, and we keep coming to a vote, and it's a draw every time. I won't give up my quarter jaw. I'm starting to think that we can't keep voting just 2 people. You know what I mean? Well, got to bring Phil into this one. All right. Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is streaming on HBO Max. If you see it, want to comment, please shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw. We did hot movies. We did possession movies, and we're doing road trip movies for trivia, as Jack's movie Monuments is a road trip movie. Jack, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any question, you get 1 rescue. I have clues to all the questions. I'm going to let Matt go first. I should say they do start off easy, but okay. I'm going to get my butt kicked on this one, I think. I don't feel confident. I think Matt's going to beat me. All right, 2 softballs to get everybody warmed up. Here we go. Question 1 over to Matt K. In 1988, Tom Cruise's Charlie and his brother Raymond traveled to Vegas in the film Rain Man. Who played Raymond? Dustin Hoffman. There we go. Softball. Like I said, Jack. But also, I think a softball on this one. Jack, in Smokey and the Bandit, We all know Burt Reynolds played the bandit and Sally Field played the hitchhiker, but who played the sheriff chasing them down?
No, I legit don't know. I've never seen this movie. Yeah, should have gone first. I'm gonna say Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, would have been great.
Is it Jackie Gleason?
That is correct.
Wow, Jackie Gleason.
Yeah. I mean,
2-0, Matt K. Question 3 is over to him. Matt, before he directed The Hangover and The Joker, this man directed the movie Road Trip. Name the director.
Yeah. He also did the G.G. Allen documentary, and his name is eluding me at the moment. Hang on. Wow.
Directed Hangover.
Yeah, no, I actually really love this filmmaker.
Of course you do.
Phillips.
We got 5 seconds for a full name here.
Can I just give the last name?
No, need a full name. This is Cinemajaw.
Brian Phillips. Shit.
That was incorrect. Jack, you got a chance for a steal here and to get a point on the board.
I do know this one. It's Todd Phillips.
That is correct.
Sorry, Matt.
It's okay.
Back into a ball game. It's 2-1. Question 4 over to Jack. Sylvester Stallone plays a truck driver trying to get to Vegas for an arm wrestling match in this 1987 film.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm definitely guessing here, and maybe I'm just pulling from like pop culture stuff, but is it Over the Top? That's my final answer.
That is correct,
okay.
Jack.
I didn't know that was a real thing. I actually thought that was a fake movie. I didn't know that was a real movie.
It's a real movie. Well, it's an actual movie.
It's actually a movie, yeah.
Yes.
2-2. Good ball game here. Question 5 over to Matt K. Speaking of directors, who directed 1991's Thelma and Louise?
Why am I getting the director?
Yeah, wow, that's
questions?
not fair. I mean, I'm really glad I didn't go first now.
Why did I get the over the top question? All right, directed Thelma and Louise.
Is Jim Belushi in Over the Top?
He should have been. That would have made it a lot better. Oh man, this is one where I'm gonna really kick myself because I know this. What number is this? What question number?
5. Only question 5.
I'm gonna take an early rescue me, Ryan, because this one's gonna bug me if I get it wrong.
Your clue is you'll be scot-free if you get it right.
Be scot-free. So is it Ridley Scott?
That is correct.
Wow, really? He directed Thelma.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's an odd one in this oeuvre.
Yes,
it is.
3-2, Matt. Question 6 over to Jack. In 2015, Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn made a road trip movie about 2 guys gambling on their way down south. Name the film.
I know this movie. I actually just rewatched. I just watched it for the first time not that long ago. It's by the filmmakers who did Half Nelson and Captain Marvel. It's called Mississippi Grind.
And it's a great movie, isn't it?
It's good. I mean, Ben Mendelsohn is the best actor alive, I would say right now. I think he's amazing. Everything he's in, I'll watch.
And Ryan Reynolds.
Yes,
we're celebrating him, of course.
We love Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, but no, Jawheads. I don't know if we've talked about Mississippi Grind on it. I love the movie, so I put it in the questions. It is good. This is great. Everybody's tied up here. It's 3-3. Question 7 over to Matt K. Matt, David Duchovny. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
He made one movie with Brad Pitt.
He did?
It came out in 1993. Name the film.
David Duchovny and Brad Pitt in 93?
Unbelievable. And it's a road trip movie of sorts.
A road trip movie. I was gonna go with that weird alien movie, Evolution. That's my guess.
Ooh,
Incorrect.
That's a really good guess. That is a straight up good guess.
Jack, you got a chance for a steal and to take the lead here as it's tied up 3 apiece.
I do not know it. What am I?
You do have a rescue.
How many more,
do you want it?
How many more questions are there?
Only one after this.
Yeah, I'll do the rescue.
Wow. Rescue me, Ryan. Your clue, Jack. It's the name of a state, and it's spelled incorrectly.
David Duchovny, Brad Pitt, 93, name of state, spelled incorrectly.
Yeah.
You got a 1 in 50 shot at this.
Oh, God. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this, to be honest.
What state is he going to go with?
Yeah, right.
You know, it's got to be one of the cool states, right? It's not going to be Maine.
Probably not going to be Maine, right? Yeah, is it Maine?
I will eliminate Maine. It is not Maine.
Okay,
you got a 1 in 49.
It's probably not going to be Ohio. You know, how do you spell Ohio wrong?
It's funny because like Ohio kept coming up in my mind. Like I was like, stop thinking about Ohio. It's like when you don't think of an elephant, you can't stop thinking of an elephant. It's like, oh right. God, I don't know, guys. What is going to be okay? So you gave me the clue and everything, so I need to say a state, and I can be maybe right. I just do not know. Utah. I mean, I'm terrible. I have no idea.
Incorrect. We were looking for California with a K. California.
Yep.
Here it is, though. The best part is it's 3-3, and the last question of the game is over to you, Jack.
Interesting.
In 2009, Robert De Niro starred in a film in which he has a road trip to see his 4 kids.
Oh.
Name the film.
Darn. Should have saved my phone Orion for this one. I can like see the trailer in my mind, but I'm not thinking of the name right now.
Robert De Niro, road trip movie to see his 4 kids. Game on the line.
Yeah. You
said a year too, right?
2009. Anything, Jack?
Yeah, no, I'm a complete blank slate.
Oh no, Matt, you got a chance for the steal and to win it on a walk-off.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I have no friggin' idea. De Niro road trip movie from 2009.
Yeah,
he's like sad. Like he wants to reconnect with his kids. It's like I think his wife died or something like that, and he's a bad dad.
Yeah. Jack's got it.
Yeah. I've seen it.
He's got the plot.
Yeah, the trailer's like in my brain, but it's completely.
Anything, Matt?
I don't know. Anger management.
Anger management.
It's around that same era, right?
We were looking for Everyone is Fine. Everyone is Fine.
Never seen it.
The game is tied. It ends this way 3-3. If it came down to a jawbreaker, this question would have been over to Jack. Better director, Todd Phillips or Ridley Scott?
Ridley Scott.
Yeah, Jack would have won this one. The real jawbreaker is this. Age of Todd Phillips. Closest to. Matt, you got to guess. Age of Todd Phillips.
Well, let's see. He hated the Gigi story in the early 90s, and he must have at least been in his late 20s to early 30s then. So, well, I'll put him at the speed limit. Let's say 55.
Lock him in at 55. Jack, you got to guess on the age of Todd Phillips.
I was going to say 56, and I'm not just doing the prices right now. Like that's just what I felt was 56.
We'd give that one to Matt. 50.
Oh.
50 for Todd Phillips.
Good for him.
He's young.
Yeah, it is young.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Good for him. Great filmmaker.
Good game. Can I get a virtual handshake here, fellas?
Here's the fist bump. Boom.
There you go. Nice. Brings us to the end of a great and very fun jaw. First and foremost, got to thank our guest, Jack C. Newell. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. You're the best. Keep jawing.
Congrats on the new film, Jack.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, I hope everyone gets a chance to see it. And if they do, and then they send you a note, Ryan, and when I'm on for my 5th or 6th appearance, I lost track, I guess, already. You can hopefully tell me that they watched it and enjoyed that one.
Absolutely. I'll do for sure. We also got to thank our producer, our editor, Filmy and Phil.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I did check. I'm going to make a plug, an old plug, really. But the music video I did for Chicago band Outronaut World War Tour, I just checked, and I animated the music video, and it doesn't have as many views as I wanted. So I'm going to push for that again. It's a good music video, and I hand drew a lot of frames.
It is.
Animation's incredible. Yeah. Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you would like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
While you're at it, hit subscribe. It's one extra button, and it really helps us out.
It sure does. Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.